All right.
Okay, so I want to start out with a hypothetical situation. Just hear me out. What if everyone in the world right now went vegetarian? What would that do for our environment? What would that do for our physical health? These two topics I'm going to talk about are going to help me further discuss how lowering your ecological footprint by reducing the amount of meat you eat in your day-to-day life can lower the effects of climate change on our planet. To start off, I want to give you a little bit of information on vegetarianism and how it differs globally. Currently, in the United States and Canada, there's about 4 to 5% of the whole population that is vegetarian. At the highest percent in India, there's about 30% of individuals who are currently vegetarian. The most basic definition of vegetarianism is the practice of not eating meat and fish. That's very, very different than veganism, just to make that clear. Okay, so in regards to the large amount of meat eaters still in the world today, there are currently about 20 billion chickens, 1.5 billion cows, a little over a billion sheep, and a little under a billion pigs at the moment that are being mass produced to create products and food for human consumption. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how these numbers are affecting our environment right now. Going back to our hypothetical situation, without meat-eating humans, there would be about 33 million square kilometers of available land. In better terms, about 13 million square miles, and in even better terms, that's about the size of the continent Africa. So, and that's not even counting the amount of land that is being used to produce the feed that is used for the animals' consumptions, not human consumptions. Now, since we're all going to be vegetarian, some of the land is now going to need to be used for the increased amount of vegetable crops, but sadly, most of the land that is used right now for pasture is actually way too dry to grow crops, and without human added nutrients, most of the land right now would turn into desert. So if you put enough effort into it and manage some of the farmland, it could go back to its natural state of grassland or forest. Therefore, it could help counteract some of the global climate change that is happening right now. After all, the loss of the CO2 absorbing trees because of the agricultural demand is one of the reasons why the global levels of CO2 is at an all-time high. Cows and other grazing animals are also large culprits of the emissions of methane, which is a powerhouse greenhouse gas that has 25 times the amount of planet warming power than CO2. Combined with the loss of forests and the effects, livestock are responsible for about 15% of greenhouse gas emissions, which is more than all the world's planes, cars, automobiles, boats, etc. combined. In fact, many scientists believe that reducing the amount of meat consumption is one of the best ways to reduce the effects of climate change. Another fun fact to add, I recently went back and I talked to my ethics professor from last semester. He's a chairman and spokesman for the Minnesota Humane Society, among other animal rights activist programs. And he stated that by cutting out meat from your diet, you can actually lower your eco-footprint 18% more than you could by driving a hybrid car, such as a Prius, maybe a Tesla, if you can afford it. I want to move on to some of the physical benefits that come with cutting out meat from your diet. So, cutting out meat has shown significant promise in regard to mood improvement. According to the Benedictine University, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, restricting animal products such as meat and fish and poultry have been confirmed to improve your overall mood. Research at Oxford University has shown strong relation between the risk of developing cataracts and diet. The higher risk obviously falling among meat eaters, and the lowest risk falling among vegetarians and vegans. So, when you're potentially retaking your driver's test at 85, you don't necessarily have to worry about that if you cut out meat from your diet. There are always exceptions, but in general, vegetarians and vegans tend to be a lot more deliberate in their diet choices. and are far less likely to binge eat and choose foods and have less time, choose foods based on emotions less, two habits that are greatly contributed to obesity. According to the University Hospital Gent Department of the Pediatrics in Belgium, following a vegetarian diet is a great way to reduce the chances of having a stroke or obesity, which is an epidemic at large in the United States. My proposed policy change would be to have more vegetarian options at elementaries, middle schools, high schools, colleges, and universities. Again, I want to go back to my hypothetical situation. I'm fully aware that at this moment, it would not be adequate to assume that all of us would become vegetarian. It's not possible at the moment. And having the option to substitute meat for, let's say, my favorite meal is eggplant parmesan, it gives you the option to try something new, to not only better yourself, but to better the environment. I want to close my speech by saying, I encourage all of you to at least once a week, try to substitute your meat for the day for a vegetarian option. Just by doing this once a week, you are lowering your ecological footprint by 14%. And not only are you improving your health, but you're taking one step to improve the environment as well.
So I'm assuming you're a vegetarian?
I am.
And what led you to initially want to make that decision? Was it this information, or did you learn this?
Last year, my ethics professor, I don't know if he's doing this ever again, but he took us to a slaughterhouse. And it was one of the most horrific experiences I've ever had, probably one of the most enlightening experiences I've had as well. I wanted to do it more for, like I said, lowering my ecological footprint, because that's something I'm very aware of. And not everyone has the means to get a Tesla that's $60,000 or drive a hybrid. So just doing this and being able to have more impact on the world is what guided me to make my decision. I didn't really eat meat to begin with, so it was kind of an easy transition.
Okay.
First of all, I love that you referenced my speech.
Yes.
Thank you. And then my second question, or I guess my first question is, meat is obviously a good source of protein, so just what are some basic alternatives that you would recommend, specifically to college students?
Definitely. So I personally don't have the best diet, but I recommend protein shakes. They're awesome. I just recently started doing it. You can get them like Costco. And it has, the one that I have, it's called Premier Protein. It's like 30 grams of protein. And before in my diet, I didn't even have that because I didn't think that I would need to get some other source of protein if I wasn't eating meat. Beans are also very, very high in protein, but also they make a lot of meat stuff, like replacements, like they make crumble from Nature. What is the brand? I'm not sure. It's called Beyond Meat. I highly recommend it. It tastes just like hamburger. If you try it, maybe you'll think so. But there's so many different options that you could do. Yeah.
What's been the biggest challenge of being a vegetarian?
Biggest challenge? Probably going out to eat with like my parents. They love, what is the restaurant downtown? It has like slabs of meat.
Fogo de Chao.
Fogo de Chao. They're obsessed with it, and I can't walk by it because I smell the meat and I am repulsed. Not because like I have anything against people eating meat, but just I've been a vegetarian for years, so it like kind of makes me like sick. But I would say like having your family not think the same way. Like they'll make hamburgers for my birthday and I can't eat it. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges.
All right, good. Thank you much.
Yeah.